Imagine, just pretend, that you're standing in a forest clearing. Nothing mystical or dramatic, just trees, wind, dirt under your feet. And maybe you notice this dirt under your feet. It's the oldest teacher you'll ever meet. It knows how to turn dead things into nourishment, pressure into growth, storms into soil. And somewhere in that noticing, the journey begins. Some kids grow up like ferns, soft soil, warm rain. Some grow up like cacti, sun, survival, sharpness, because no one taught them softness first. And maybe you learned to be a cactus. Maybe you learned to store your water deep, to hide your heart behind thorns, to become strong, because you'd no choice. But here's the cosmic joke. No cactus is ashamed of being a cactus. Only humans do that weird shit. So the call to adventure isn't some prophecy about destiny. It's the moment you realise, hell, maybe I'm not broken. Maybe I'm just built for a different ecosystem. That recognition, it's already a form of healing, because it breaks the spell that said, you're the problem. That belief, by the way, is the villain of the story. A villain made of echoes, not truth. Imagine you're 5. You learn to read faces faster than computers read code. Not because you were gifted, but because you had to know whether the person you depended on was going to be warm or cold today. And now that skill, that hyper-awareness, it feels like anxiety or overthinking. But here's the twist. Hypervigilance is just pattern recognition at the wrong volume. Turn the dial, and you call it intuition. Turn further, it becomes empathy. Further still, creativity, strategy, leadership, boundary sensing, energy reading, social pattern analysis. Same mechanism, different meaning. This is how you already do it. You notice shit other people miss. This is how you can do it in new ways. You choose what the noticing means. This is why it matters, because your brain listens to the meaning, not the event. Science calls this neuroassociation. What fires together wires together. And what you name becomes the thing you navigate. Here's the paradox that hits everyone eventually. The parent you needed didn't show up, so you have to become them. Not as an identity inflation, but as a function, a faculty, a skill set that grows like a muscle. The mentor isn't some mystical being. It's just the adult voice inside that says, kid, I see you, you're scared. And we're going to handle this one tiny step at a time. You build that voice like a stone path, one compassionate sentence at a time. So you interrupt the patterns that keep you stuck, the big ones, the ones every human gets tangled in. The I'm unlovable loop. The I must do everything alone loop. If they see the real me, they'll leave loop. The I'll fail, so why try loop. The what I feel is wrong loop. These loops aren't demons. They're just old codes written by a scared kid who didn't have enough data. You update the code through micro-exposure. 1 second of eye contact. Not a party. Reinterpretation. Thorns, they're for protection, not proof of defect. Internal dialogue, I'm here. The most potent 3-word update you'll ever write. boundary rehearsal, little no's before big ones. Self-validation, not mystical, just telling yourself the truth before asking anyone else. The fear of people's reaction, perfectly normal. Evolution wired you to avoid exile. Your brain treats disapproval like a tiger attack, because 120,000 years ago, it basically was one. You're not weak, you're ancient. Every heroic myth has the moment where the protagonist realizes the monster in the cave, it's made of their own shadow. Your shadow might whisper, I'm not enough, I'm too much. No one stays, no one sees me, I always mess it up. You don't slay the shadow, you sit with it long enough to see. It's just frightened history. This isn't mystical, it's neurobiological. Trauma stored as implicit memory. When you face it calmly, your amygdala updates the file. When you run, it stays corrupted. When the fortress stops being a prison, it becomes a workshop. Once you learn to hold yourself, something subtle shifts. You stop begging for connection, like a drowning person grabs a rope. You start offering connection, like a person who knows they won't collapse without it. And people feel the difference. It's quiet, warm, steady, not mystical, just regulated. You become the kind of person who can say, come in if you want, leave if you need. Either way, I'm intact. That's power, not cosmic power, just psychological maturity. Here's the father energy truth smack. If you don't integrate this, life will drag your ass back to the same lessons over and over. Different faces, same wound, different job, same dynamic. Different relationship, same abandonment fear. Integration is the karma. Not woo-woo karma, cause and effect karma, action and consequence karma. When you do this work, you grow steadier. You choose better. You connect cleaner. You stop bleeding emotionally on people who didn't cut you. Your future becomes broader, more flexible, more possible. When you don't, you repeat, you defend, you retreat, you numb. You survive instead of live, not as punishment, just as inertia. The prophecy isn't about destiny. It's about pattern. A pattern older than religion, older than myth. Every human who turns toward their inner wound, instead of turning away, changes their entire life. Not because of magic, because of mechanics. Because the brain rewires in the direction of whichever truth you practice most often. And loneliness was never the enemy. It was the summons, the beacon, the call to adventure that said, you're not done becoming yet.